Hey folks, and welcome back to the channel for another V Rising video. Now in this one we're going to be taking a look at all of the things that I wish I had known when I first started playing the game, and what I had a chance to learn from both the betas and the first couple of days since release. Now V Rising is an incredibly in-depth game, and sometimes it's way too easy to miss things or have no idea what they do, so hopefully this video helps you understand the finer points of the game. And if you do pick something up from this video, please do consider dropping it a like and subscribing to the channel. It's a massive help to keep me doing what I'm doing. Alright, so I wanted to start with one that I think a hell of a lot of new players will find helpful. Now when you're getting going with your quest, something to keep in mind if you're playing with others is that you can often complete your quests together rather than all of you doing them individually. Now most quests that tell you to build and interact with something actually work without that first part, meaning someone in your clan can place the item required to build as part of the quest, and all you need to do is interact with it. This can save you both resources and time whilst you're getting through the early stages of progression. Anyway, on to the next one. Now after killing the Alpha Wolf, V Rising's first V Blood, you'll gain access to Wolf Form, which can be accessed on the left control menu, allowing you to travel the map much quicker. Great, nothing groundbreaking there though. There's something you might not realise about this form at first, however. Many of the creatures in V Rising won't actually attack you whilst you're in this form, especially when it comes to animals. Wolves, bears, even tree ants won't aggro to you, so travelling around is much easier, but it doesn't end there. This little mechanic also applies to certain bosses, like the Ferocious Bear, so if you're attempting this boss with a group, you can all take up positions and prepare an opening barrage of spells whilst you're all in your wolf form. It's a serious help to get started with this one. Now whilst we're on the topic of travelling around the world of Vardoran, I wanted to mention something that might sound simple for some that have been playing the game for a while, but I really didn't think about it until I started doing this myself. Well, most players that have tried the game by now will know that sunlight is a massive pain in the ass. But something to keep in mind whilst travelling is that the map is designed very intelligently with this feature in mind. So if you stay off the roads, there's a lot more tree cover and shade. The developers have put a lot of thought into this aspect of the game, and many pathways that are off the beaten track tend to follow roads quite closely, so don't be afraid to take the road less travelled during the day. Oh, and whilst you're off the road, keep an eye out for stone golems. Yes, stone golems are a pretty dangerous foe in the early stages of the game, and you'll want to have your eyes open so that you can evade them. But also, they have a bit of an unexpected use to the more daring vampire as well. If you get too close to a stone golem, they'll use a ground smash attack that does a significant amount of damage in the area surrounding it. Now, why is this relevant? Well, it applies to collectible resources around them as well. So, if you're trying to collect a bunch of stone or a bunch of wood, stone golems can actually make quick work of surrounding resources, and you can reap the rewards of their labor. Just don't get caught by the ground slam in the process. Staying on topic with resource collection, there's one tip I'd give to anyone for making those resource runs a little easier. Now when you're out and about, keep an eye out for worker blood types of high quality. You might be more inclined to keep something that's more useful in combat, but grabbing a worker blood type can significantly increase the speed and yield of resource gathering to the point where you can gain up to 30% increased resources from your runs. Pick one of these up before doing that next iron run and it's going to pay dividends, so always have an eye open for these. Next up, I wanted to take a look at some of the easy to miss parts of the UI in V Rising. There are a whole lot of things that were built to make your life easier implemented into the game, but are so incredibly easy to miss at the same time. Now, for example, if you open up a chest in your castle and go to the very top right of its inventory panel, there's a little pencil inside of a box. If you click on this, it allows you to name the chest, which pops up whenever you get close to it from then on. It's a great way to sort your loot and help to classify it, but it's actually kind of hidden in the UI. And on that same token, once you've decided which items are going into your chest, you can click the button that reads compulsively sort every time you come back to it, and it'll take any items in your inventory that match those in the chest and place them into the chest automatically. This works great when you've come back from a loot run and want to dump your stuff stuff in the right chests quickly. Now, if you're someone that doesn't have a microphone to communicate or would prefer something simple over text chat or microphone chat, you can hold left Alt and use the emote wheel for a range of gestures. Now, this is nothing major, but it's a nice little implementation with some entertaining emotes. There's also a way that you can customize your character later in the game if you feel like you need a wardrobe change later on. Now, by building a mirror and interacting with it, you can change how your character looks all over again. The mirror can be found under the Universal Building tab. Next, I wanted to take a look at these little beauties, the cave entrances scattered around the map. I know when I first started playing, I was spotting these on my map and wondering what the hell they were used for, and I was actually pleasantly surprised when I found out. Basically, each of these cave entrances connects to a corresponding cave entrance in another region of the map. It's essentially a fast travel system, and if you can learn where each of these cave entrances sends you to, they can be used for great effect when out on loot runs, especially once you get the vampire waygate sorted. We used our waygate to teleport out to an area near the iron mine, for example, and then once we were done, we'd head up to a nearby cave entrance that connected to one near our base. Now, the great thing about these cave entrances is that whilst it doesn't take you all the way back to your base, it does allow you to carry your loot through them, unlike the vampire waygates. It's definitely something to be aware of when you're out on your travels. Alright, so next I wanted to talk briefly about blood moons. By default, these appear every 10 to 18 days and will provide you with a buff. You can tell when a blood moon is on the horizon by keeping an eye on the clock at the top right of your screen. When the hours associated with night switch color to red, your next night will be a blood moon. The blood moon provides you with a 20% buff to all of your current benefits from the blood type you have. This makes it a great time to take on V-Bloods if you're struggling with one for that little extra kick to your attacks, or alternatively, it's a fantastic time to farm resources if you have a worker blood type available to you. Now, around the point that you're first venturing into Dunley farmlands, there's a couple of things that I wish I had known that I think you might be able to benefit from. Firstly, Dunley farmlands is where you can find your first horse. Many areas of Dunley farmlands are protected by garlic, and I'll get into that in just a moment. But for now, I wanted to recommend a couple of areas for acquiring your first horse that won't require any protection against garlic. These locations I've highlighted on the map here are just inside of the border of Dunley farmlands and possess horses for you to capture as your noble steed. To be honest, if you can avoid the hostile NPCs in this area, you could probably come here pretty early on in the game and still get away with it too. The racetrack especially is barely guarded at all and has a plethora of horses available to you in the stables. The thing to remember here is that horses need water. Specifically, you need to place water skins in their inventory. So as long as you're able to make those for them, you're in the clear. You can access a horse's inventory by pressing tab when riding it. You'll be able to fill it up with water, put supplies in your horse's inventory for extra carrying weight, or check on its stats. Now, if you weren't aware already, horses have three main stats that can be seen in the right-hand panel when you're riding one and press tab. Each horse has its own unique qualities, so you can keep an eye out for ones that are a little better than your current one if you want to switch out at some stage. One little warning about Dunley farmlands though. Perhaps one of the greatest rivals to vampires roams this area, preying on nearby settlements, much like you will be, werewolves. They will be much stronger than you at this stage of the game, and right now, your best bet is to avoid them until later. Sometimes though, you might find one attacking a settlement, and it actually makes for a great distraction if you want to use this to pilfer some resources in the meantime. Now, let's go back to those garlic protected settlements. V-Rising has more than one mechanic like this in the game that you'll encounter at various stages. Settlements protected by anti-vampire items that will either weaken you or cause you to take damage. With the settlements in Dunley farmlands, make sure that you're spending as little time inside garlic protected settlements as possible. You'll start to hear a light hissing when you come close to these areas, and when stepping into the settlement, you'll start stacking up a debuff that makes you weaker and increases your aggro radius. So grab what you came for, then scarper back to the woods as quickly as possible. Once you've learned how to do so, you can craft garlic resistance brews at the alchemy table in your castle to protect you to some extent. There are also items you'll learn to craft or can find out in the world that will give you some resistance as well, so keep an eye out for them whilst you're exploring. Now, this next one will also become apparent when you venture into Dunley farmlands for the first time, and it's relating to V-Bloods and boss fights. When you get to the point where you need iron to craft, you'll no doubt find yourself hitting the haunted iron mine in the central part of Dunley. Inside this mine, you'll find Meredith, the Bright Archer, who is a V-Blood that you'll likely need to avoid as you're harvesting iron. Don't worry, you can come back to her later, but if you venture a little deeper into the mine, you might find this room with a circle of bones that looks rather like a boss arena. Well, spoiler alert, that's because it is. However, this boss is not a V-Blood on account of not actually having any blood. This boss is known as the Undead Commander, who also patrols the haunted iron mines. Instead of being drained for their knowledge, the Undead Commander will actually sometimes drop the recipe for a Reaper weapon that is one step up from iron weaponry, called the General Soul Reaper. He also drops Scourge Stones, which you'll want to hold on to as they become a component of Holy Resistance potions that can be used to fight Meredith and various other bosses. Now, this is a great weapon, but the knowledge can't be shared with your clan like recipes attained from V-Bloods, so keep this in mind when deciding who gets the Soul Reaper. What's lesser known to many players is that the two bosses of the haunted iron mines actually bump into each other sometimes and engage in a fight. We found this out ourselves when on a resource run, and we decided to let things pan out as both bosses were significantly higher level than us at the time. Now, in this particular encounter, the Undead Commander took the victory, and we were able to drain the Bright Archer after he had left, gaining her knowledge without actually fighting her. Now, I realize many won't want to use this and would prefer to fight her themselves, which is completely understandable, but all the same, it's a handy little trick to know about. Now, interestingly, the Bright Archer can actually win that fight as well sometimes, and you might find the Undead Commander's weapon recipe or other loot simply laying on the ground from when he was killed last, if you're lucky. So keep an eye out for bosses even though you aren't tracking them, because you never know where they might be hiding. Okay, so back to some more trivial tips for this next section, and this one relates to storage. When you gain the ability to make bookcases, I'd strongly recommend doing so in place of your stashes or chests. Now, when I first saw the bookcases, I assumed it was more of a decorative choice and probably wouldn't hold as much as a chest would. I was wrong. The bookcases hold even more than a big stash will, so are definitely worth constructing, and they also take up a little less space in your castle as well, so makes for a great option when it comes to storage. My final piece of knowledge that I'll share with you guys in this video is just a simple one, and that's not to neglect fishing. You might think fishing is just there to catch fish, and I definitely wouldn't blame you for that, but you can actually acquire rare cosmetic items and resources from fishing that you might not be able to get until a bit later in the game otherwise, so it's definitely worth doing this. I've fished up things like hats, iron, and even Scourge Stones whilst trying to fish, so yeah, don't pass it up when you see those fishing spots out in your travels. Now, that's it from me in this one, guys, but if there's anything that you feel I've missed here and you want to share with the community, please feel free to post it in the comments. A huge thank you if you've watched this far, and if you're interested in playing V Rising with my community, we now have 2 servers active that you can find in the server browser by searching for The Pond. One is our public server and one is whitelisted via our Patreon page. If you're interested in joining the Patreon, there's a link for that in the description, along with a link to our Discord as well. Special thank you to all of my existing patrons for your support and for joining me on our servers. Thanks, folks, and I'll see you all in the next one.